Please, I don't want to burn. Then please, just kill me now, she begged. The Nomad raised an eyebrow slightly. Now? He asked in that same calm, deep voice, this time with a hint of disbelief. Marianna nodded, ready for the worst. He turned away, walked over to the table, picked up a sword and slowly approached her. Straight through the heart? He asked quietly. Yes, she answered, her voice trembling. He placed the blade against her white shirt. She felt the cold metal, and panic surged through her. Wait, please, she cried suddenly. Not the sword! It'll hurt, there'll be so much blood. Maybe you could strangle me instead? Surprised, he raised an eyebrow. Strangle you? All right, he said, putting down the sword. He slowly reached out his hands toward her neck. She closed her eyes. She felt his fingers, warm, gentle. They tightened slightly, and then she felt his lips on hers. Startled, she opened her eyes. His face was right in front of her, his eyes so close she could see every detail. They weren't cold or threatening, but sad. He brushed her lips once more and stepped back. After a moment, still confused, Marianna asked hesitantly, Why didn't you strangle me? Because you see, Marianna, I have other plans for you, he replied gently. She frowned. What plans? I swear I'm not a witch, she exclaimed, terrified that was what he was talking about. The Nomad looked at her and, with unexpected tenderness, brushed her cheek with the back of his hand. Marianna, he said softly with a faint smile, your spell is too strong. I am unable to resist it, so in return I intend to make you fall in love with me. He looked at her for a moment while she desperately tried to understand what he had just said. What could it mean? Some strange Nomad ritual? A ceremony? A trick for witches? None of it made sense. She had to get out. Please let me go, she repeated once more, bewildered. The Nomad stepped back a little. Tell me, if I let you go now, wouldn't you feel a little disappointed? He asked. Shaken, Marianna shook her head. You're saying that because you're scared right now. But if you were already safe, wouldn't you be surprised that this wild and rather handsome Nomad, who had you completely at his mercy and could have done whatever he wanted with you, just let you go? Wouldn't you start thinking, what's wrong with me? Why didn't he take me? Maybe my breasts are too small, or what? Marianna instinctively glanced down at her chest. The Nomad laughed heartily, as if he'd just caught her doing something sneaky. No, they're wonderful, he said. Honestly, I really don't see any reason to let you go, but at least I'll get you down from the hook. My name is Arius, he said. He reached for the sword that just a moment ago was meant to pierce her heart and cut her bonds. Make yourself at home, he added and set the weapon aside. Marianna, still with her head in a whirl, almost reflexively grabbed the sword and aimed it at him. Step away, or I'll kill you, she almost whispered. He didn't even flinch. She decided she had to strike. It was her only chance. She thrust with the sword, but the blade stopped at his bare chest. She had never had to stab anyone before. She thought it would go in much more easily. Confused by his inaction, she pushed harder and the blade cut the skin. A trickle of blood appeared. He still didn't move. You need to work on that killing thing, he said in that same calm voice. Thrown off by his composure and seized by panic, Marianna dropped the sword, pushed him away, and bolted. She ran out through the door and started sprinting toward the forest like mad. She passed other nomads who definitely saw her, but none reacted. She ran as fast as her legs would carry her. She plunged into the forest and kept going along a narrow path. Night had already fallen, but the light of the nearly full moon provided fairly good visibility. She ran without rest until exhaustion forced her to slow down. Eventually, she switched to walking. After a few hours, she began to reflect on her situation. She was no longer sure if running away had been the right thing to do. To be honest, she was surprised that no one had chased after her. Not even her captor, Arius, as he had introduced himself. Maybe she wounded him enough that he wasn't able to. She had to admit that although at first he had terrified her, with every passing moment he intrigued her more and more. He certainly wasn't an ordinary steppe boy. He spoke in a strange, almost noble manner, and his calmness and composure seemed almost unnatural. He was also strikingly handsome, and that strange talk about her beauty and that kiss, she could still feel it. She began to wonder what truly lay behind it all. She even thought that if someone were to take her, it might as well be someone like him. She began to hesitate. Maybe she should go back. Somehow she felt that Arius wouldn't be angry at her. And then a net fell on her. Quite some time after Marianna's escape, Arius walked out of the tent. A trickle of blood was running down his chest, but it had almost dried. "Your lamb ran off," said Corin with a slight sneer, still sorting through the loot from the last raid. "Apparently she needs some time to herself," Arius replied. "You, Prince? Sometimes when you say something, if I were you, I'd have tied her to the bed and the matter would have been settled." "An interesting proposition," murmured Arius, not really listening. His thoughts were elsewhere. He was wondering what he should do now. "Don't forget, the larvae have their marzana in a few weeks," said Corin, as usual, showing that he understood the situation much better than one might gather from his sarcastic remarks. "Damn, that's right," cursed Arius and hurried toward his horse. At first, the trail was very clear, so he rode fast. Over time, it began to darken, which made riding much harder. He had to get off the horse to see her tracks. He tried to guess how she might have acted in panic, which direction she might have fled, but panic was not his strong suit. Even so, he hoped she might have stopped somewhere to wait out the night. The chances of that, however, were slim. Fear had likely given her strength and was pushing her forward. As he had suspected, it looked like she had walked without pause through the entire night. There were no signs of stopping or resting. That did not bode well. In the darkness, he lost the trail several times and had to turn back, which meant the distance between them was growing. At dawn, he reached the other edge of the forest, and there he finally found something. The site of a struggle was clearly identifiable. There were few signs which suggested she had been subdued quickly and without much resistance. Fortunately, there were no traces of blood. He quickly realized there had been two of them. The trail led first to where they had left their horses, and then further, across the steppe. Arius was furious with himself. How could he have allowed this to happen? When she escaped, he decided to teach her a lesson. He hadn't gone after her immediately. He thought that if she spent the night alone in the forest, she would soften, and then he would heroically rescue her. That self-confidence of his would one day be his downfall. At some point, it occurred to him that he might never see her again. That night, in the tent, when he was washing, he knew well that Marianna was watching him. He had started showing off his body to impress the girl, and then began to flirt and toy with her fear. He had probably gone a bit too far. Now he would have to find a way to make amends. He moved quickly. The others hadn't bothered much with covering their tracks, so the trail was easy to read. They did use a few typical tricks, like any nomads, but nothing that could surprise him. Moving along the stream or over the rocks wasn't enough to throw him off. However, he had to hurry. They had no reason to slow down, so they were probably moving fast as well. He disliked the open steppe. It was difficult to hide there and sneak up on someone unnoticed. He decided that if a confrontation broke out, he would first try negotiations. He caught up with them a few hours later. They were resting on a small hill. They could be seen from afar, but they also had a good view of the surroundings. According to old nomadic custom, they were sitting facing each other, so that one could see what was happening behind the other's back. So, they saw him immediately. He approached slowly, pretending to be a wandering traveler. When he got closer, he recognized one of them, Sagittarius. a well-regarded, experienced warrior from the tribe of the House of the Wasp. Arius had crossed paths with him once before, during the intertribal council rituals at the Well of Swarog's Horse. This tribe was scornfully called larvae by other clans. Arius himself came from the House of the Eagle, in turn nicknamed Chicks by the others. The second nomad, much younger, was unfamiliar to him. He looked somewhat like Sagittarius, perhaps his son? That might come in handy, Arius thought. A bit farther behind them lay the bound Marianna, tied up like a cocoon, surprisingly tightly, considering that nomads didn't like to waste energy or materials and were masters in the art of tying people. Marianna wasn't particularly dangerous after all. Only her head was sticking out of the cocoon, or rather just her eyes, wide again. Poor girl, she's been through a lot lately, he thought. So, as Corin had suspected, Marianna had been captured by the larvae, hunting for their Marzana. His group didn't maintain particularly friendly relations with the larvae, but they weren't at war either. Individual skirmishes and duels happened all the time, but that was normal among nomads. The one he recognized spoke first. "Greetings, Eagle." He began politely, making it clear that he had recognized him as well. "What twist of fate has crossed our path with yours?" He continued. "Greetings, Wasp," answered Arius. "It is always an honor to meet a great warrior on one's way," he continued with courtesies. "And who is your young companion?" he asked as if formally. "This is my son, Sativarius," the older one replied with clear pride. "Greetings," Arius nodded slightly toward the young one. The latter returned the nod. "How can we help you?" Sagittarius asked further politely. Arius decided not to beat around the bush. "The woman you captured belongs to me. I want her back." "You meant to say belonged," Sagittarius replied with slight mockery, changing his tone. "Now she is ours." "I understand your position, but unfortunately I must insist," replied Arius in his flowery style. Sagittarius laughed. "I see, Prince, that you intend to honor us with your widely known eloquence. The girl is needed by us and is of great importance. What do you propose?" "I will let you live," replied Arius, escalating the situation another step. Sagittarius laughed even louder, and it even sounded sincere. "That won't be enough," he added. But allow me to show you something." He motioned to his son, who stood and moved toward the horses standing off to the side. Arius was almost certain they had no intention of giving Marianna back. The experienced Sagittarius was merely pretending to negotiate to buy time and improve his position. Arius suspected Sagittarius had recognized him earlier, and they had agreed on a plan before Arius could even hear them. But he guessed what they were planning. Most likely, now he himself was the more important target, specifically his head. Hanging the head of the famous prince in one's tent would be a great prestige for any warrior. Death in battle did not frighten nomads. That was what made them such dangerous opponents. They believed a fallen warrior reached the highest sphere of their paradise, but it was best to die after gaining glory when the heads of many enemies adorned your tent. The head of Arius in the tent of young Sativarius would surely skyrocket his reputation, and if he obtained it while avenging his father's death, it might even be worthy of a saga. Arius recalled that Sagittarius was known as a confident, even boastful warrior, convinced of the superiority of his skills and never backing down from challenges. "Just like me," flashed through his mind, and that only strengthened his suspicion. He suspected that Sagittarius hoped Arius would focus on him as the more dangerous opponent. And here Arius saw his chance, because he intended to focus on the son. If he didn't have to, he didn't intend to kill them, not out of humanitarian reasons. Humanitarianism was not an effective philosophy on the steppe. He wanted to bring them to a state where they could flee, but could not fight effectively. He hoped that when Sagittarius realized Arius was aiming to kill his son, he would quickly choose to back off, believing that Arius would not pursue them, since he would be busy with the girl. He didn't know Sagittarius' full capabilities. He had never fought him, but he knew he was good. Probably not good enough to beat Arius one-on-one, but with his son's help, who knew? Especially since Arius had no idea what to expect from the younger Nomad. However, when that one moved toward the horses, Arius knew it was starting, so he decided to strike first. He was a second too late. The other one was already pulling out a short nomadic javelin, the kind that could be both thrown and used effectively in close combat. He probably planned to throw it, but when Arius jumped, he changed his mind and instantly drew his sword as well. He rather skillfully parried the strike aimed at his right arm and swung back in retaliation, but Arius was no longer there. He had jumped to get behind his opponent. However, the other one guessed and turned the other way, retreating. "He's better than I thought," flashed through Arius's mind. "I'll have to remember that for the future, if there is one."